court judgments and court cases as perhaps the biggest challenges to this coming election. And the federal government is saying that all hands are on deck. We're hearing from security operatives saying that indeed they will do all they can to ensure safety of electoral personnel, INEC personnel, and materials ahead of this election. We're hearing some reported attacks on PVC collection centers coming from Imo. But our attention this morning is turned to insecurity in southeastern part of Nigeria. Just over IPOB Nnamdi Kanu, the governor has also now offered to act as a surety, and that's coming after a senator also had made similar offer. The IPOB leader remains in the custody of the DSS. This is coming days after the appeal court judgment asking for his release. You recall that the same appeal court has held on to that particular order, pending the decision of the federal government's appeal at the Supreme Court. The Anambra state governor is saying that it's important that the fight or the ongoing efforts to stem the tide of insecurity in that part of the country is done in two parts. He commended the kinetic efforts by the Nigerian military and the efforts of the presidency to send soldiers to that part, but he's also making reference to non-kinetic efforts, the fact that they need people to sit on the table. And according to him, I'm quoting him now, "I now want to appeal and plead and request and demand of the federal government and our able president, led by President Buhari, that a critical person is required around the table for that conversation to be complete, for us to have an all-round approach to dealing with the issue of insecurity as well as discussing the future of the Southeast." They went ahead to say that person, and we need him urgently around the table, please release him to us, and that's Nnamdi Kanu. I'm calling on the federal government to release Nnamdi Kanu and security and prosperity of that geopolitical region. Now, the question remains as to how critical Nnamdi Kanu is to peace in that part of the country, whether or not he is still in charge of the IPOB group and its the armed militia. Its military arm called the ESN, and whether or not it still commands a lot of respect and reportedly fomenting trouble in that part of the country. What is also the legal provision to having him released? Because the case is in court. The federal government is appealing his release at the Supreme Court. Already, the appellate court has also held on its judgment to have him released. And that's it makes it a little bit regards this particular case. But I'm joined this morning by Libros Oshoma, lawyer, public policy and social affairs analyst. Mr. Oshoma joins us live from Dakar. Good morning, Mr. Oshoma.
Yeah, good morning, man. Yeah, good morning, my brother, Nifemi.
Perhaps we should begin with what's happening in Senegal. I'm told that you attended the 8th edition of the Africa Music Award.
Yes, I did. Yeah, and I'm still in Dakar.
What's the mood there, particularly with the wins for Nigerian artists?
Yeah, the mood is very charged, and the other African artists also are not giving the Nigerian artists a chance at all. A lot of African artists also are coming up and are angling to take over the stage from the Davidos, the Tiwa Savage, the P Squares, the Burna Boy, and the rest. But for the Nigerian artists, they've taken music to entirely whole new level. Now they are global brands, and so their music it's almost everywhere. But I can tell you that music has come home to Africa, and really it was an awesome event. It was a gathering of colors from different artists from different African countries, who also want to excel. And then the Francophone music and rap, the way it is, catching up really in this part of West Africa and East Africa, it's really, really, awesome and marvelous. But another thing is, I think the Nigerian artists, majority of the Nigerian artists don't, seems to respect the, their African fans. you know, the way they respect, you know,
the
their
international
global
audience.
So that's another thing I noticed. Yes, their international audience, you know, they don't seem to pay the same attention and respect to the African fans like that, and especially the Nigerian artists.
I get what you're saying.
You know, all other artists, you know. But one very unique thing about the country is that it's very safe. It's you have a lot of policing around patrol, not like what we had, and something I also noticed, which I must say here, is I didn't see a lot of mobile.
All right, so let's talk about the music back at home. The attention is shifted to how we can secure Southeast Nigeria better, and the Anambra State Governor is talking about non-kinetic approach, which some would say is very critical when we raise the issue of agitation for secession and the dimension that he has taken in Southeast Nigeria. So Professor Soludo is saying that the people of the region are prepared for a comprehensive heart-to-heart conversation about the future, security, and prosperity of the geopolitical zone. How important do you think Nnamdi Kanu is to this non-kinetic approach?
Yeah, it's very important. You remember when Ralph Wazurike was arrested by Obasanjo's government, and you know, that didn't quell the agitations and you know, the cry for justice. And then I think Nnamdi Kanu's faction, you know, broke away from the Ralph Wazurike Masob, created, you know, their own IPOB. And when he started, you know, some people had advised government not to, you know, elevate the persona behind the whole IPOB drama, you know, beyond, you know, where they were. But the government didn't listen, arrested him, you know, brought him to Nigeria. The first time he came into Nigeria was arrested, and then subsequently he was alleged to have jumped bail, even though that bail was frustrated by the invasion of his house. And then that made him a demigod, and people started hero worshiping him. It was like he who is to come liberate the Southeast. And so a lot of, you know, young unemployed people took solaces in that, you know, radical message, and, you know, used that opportunity, including miscreants who, you know, would want to take to crime. We all know, you know, used that opportunity also, started fomenting, you know, trouble. So I think now government had consistently, you know, used force, and it is not working. I think it is high time government also, you know, find alternative. Another thing that is very instructive also for me in all of this is the fact that this also calls to question the debate, you know, the national, you know, have a heart-to-heart talk on security issues and economic issues challenging their region. I think the Odua group or the Yoruba started that, you know, and when the governors talked about integration and synergy in the Southwest, but I don't know how far that had also gone now, because that talk had died down, you know, with the creation of Amotekun, and then the debate, back and forth debate on Amotekun, and then the Bubiagu creation that didn't see the light of the day also in the Southeast. I think it is high time that the government, you know, find a way of creating this, you know, opportunity to dialogue. But that does not mean that the government is a weakling, or that the government should allow non-state actors to run riots, you know, around the country, and then allow, you know, dissident citizens to take over the space, because that will show that the government is
indeed
weakling. But then it is instructive at this stage that truly there's need for a heart-to-heart talk. The Johannes Ndigos, you know, should look inward from the various meeting levels. A lot of them couldn't go home this Christmas. Initially it was, oh, they were outsiders, they were foreigners invading their land. But when Soludo came out to say, no, the people we arrested are from amongst us, and so they are not foreigners. So that also sent a clear signal that, it is Nigerians that are actually destroying Nigeria.
Do you think that, just a minute, let me butt in very quickly, Mr. Shima. Do you think that we have a full understanding of Nnamdi Kanu's acceptance in the Southeast? Because the internet is full of videos of him, making hate speeches, insulting, verbal attacks on ethnic groups, calling for war. And it's just pretty much amazing how such an individual can be celebrated as some sort of an ethnic hero. But I'm just wondering if we have a full understanding of what his status is like, important he is to the ongoing conversations for peace.
Yeah, why we should condemn the activities of the IPOB and activities of Nnamdi Kanu, especially his statements, calling for war, calling Nigeria a zoo, and calling people names. But I think also the people that are asking for a kinetic approach to all of these things also would have, had to have this. They also need to other persons some other leaders who would have come up, between that time and now, who would also want to hold their own. So it should be a holistic dialogue. And that is why I said that Nigeria, the government, it shouldn't be seen from the point of, the government is a weakling, or the government cannot match people force for force. But consistently, because of the injustice, pervading the entire country, you find out that there's always this, shout for marginalization the moment some persons are out of power. But everybody in Nigeria is marginalized one way or the other. Some of us are from the minority inside minority inside minority. So we're not even talking. But then there should be a seeming balance of, equality. And, all problems are local, no matter how you want to. We also need to tap these issues from the local point of view and make the land secure to be able to provide opportunity to engage these people. And those that you can engage, you engage. And then those that cannot be engaged, let them face the wrath of the law. But as it is, Nnamdi Kanu should be like a bait to kickstart a discussion. Nobody's saying, just let him go, but let it be. It's just like, somebody has committed a crime and you find out that, look, I can use this person to, achieve or capture the bigger thief. So what do? It's almost like a plea bargain. So what the government can do is to go into a plea bargain with Nnamdi. A lot has happened. Also, the government needs to wake up to its responsibility. It is not enough to say we have constructed the we have constructed the second Niger bridge. And so to that extent, the people in the East should be happy. It is also not enough for the Easterners to see every activities of government as, no, it is anti-Igbo, or it is anti-this, it is anti-that. We need to look at ourselves and tell ourselves the truth and say, look, we want peace. And any way that we can achieve it, including blaming some of our own, we should do it. So it is not a problem that is lean, in one's area. It is not a problem also that you need to look, the solution lies in once you release Nnamdi Kanu, then that is the end of the problem. It's a dire stand, and we truly want a holistic peace. I used to visit Owerri a lot. It was a town I loved going to cool off. But unfortunately today I can no longer, in all honesty, buy a ticket and say I'm going to Owerri because of insecurity. And that's loss of business for so many people. So I also can imagine how many people, including people who are from that area, can no longer go there.
Let us explore.
These are people who...
Sorry, I'm butting in, but I just have to catch you as often as I can so we can pack a punch with this conversation. I'd like us to explore the legal provision for what the Anambra State Governor is asking for, because this is not the first time that individuals and stakeholders have asked that Nnamdi Kanu be released. Some traditional rulers had earlier on visited Mr. President, and he said, well, the case is in court. I can't just pick the case completely out of court and deal with it. What is the legal provision for his release. As we speak now, the federal government has appealed. There's a stay of execution. There's an appeal pending, I believe, at the Supreme Court. What are the legal way forward? I mean, what's the legal way forward as a lawyer for you?
I think that is a fine way to start. The court has discharged Nnamdi Kanu and quashed all the charges filed against him. That will be a fantastic place to start from. Though the federal government has appealed, I talked about plea bargain. The federal government has appealed, disagreeing with the judgment. But both teams can sit down and say, okay, a governor, a sitting governor, a chief security officer of a state is saying, release him to me. So court has granted him, has discharged him. Now you're saying, no, you do not agree with that judgment. A governor is saying, okay, look, you release him to me. So the legal window here is, okay, let parties sit down. Even when a matter is on appeal, there's still room for settlement. Let parties sit down and say, okay, let's have a terms of settlement. Let's agree on XYZ and XYZ, ABC, XYZ. And if this consistently happens, we would have no other option but to file, other charges bordering on this against you. But we want to use you. We first need to understand truly, if you want peace, that should be the starting point. And like what I said, I believe that Soludo and the elders from that region probably would have reached out to him, and he had assured them that certainly, he would want to toe the line of peace. Otherwise, if they are just acting with the belief that he might listen to them, then he might create a bigger problem.
Exactly the point I was going to make, Mr. Oshoma, about just how assuring that assurance will be. But we're going to get back to this conversation shortly. Let's take Uwankuba's call from Agege. Good morning, Uwankuba.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Please turn down the volume of your TV.
Okay, we're done now.
All right, go ahead, please, with your contribution.
I wanted to ask the presenters here, because it says Soludo tells PMB to release Nnamdi Kanu. Is he being sincere, or he wants to use this opportunity to pacify, to try to bend the nonsense thing that is going around between him and the PMB? Because now that he is a better patriotic person who wants the voice of the Southeasterners to be heard, other than PMB that many people have told to say something about.
In short, you're saying that there's a political undertone to the Anambra State Governor's position. What do you think about it, Mr. Oshoma?
To what he's trying to say.
Completely disagree. I completely disagree with that position. Even before Soludo became a governor, I think in one of the Southeastern Stakeholders Forum, when he delivered a keynote address, he did say that the government was making a mistake by elevating Nnamdi Kanu to the level of a hero, subjecting him to the kind of proposing it. And also, please, let's not play politics with lives and properties of people. I saw a convoy of, was it Emeka Ofo, visiting his village, somewhere. And if you see the retinue of aides, how many people can afford that? How many people went home for Christmas this 2022 in the Southeast? If there is no peace in the Southeast, do you think there will be voting there and then talking of even a winner emerging? What Soludo is doing now, I think that the Labour Party candidate ought to have done that long ago. So let's not embellish this. Let's not be political about all of this. Soludo is a governor. He's a chief security officer of a state. His concern primarily now should be in his state and how investment will accrue so that he can make money to be able to deliver on his promises. He has nothing. So look, another thing people should understand is these people are not quarreling. Soludo has no personal issues with Peter Obi. Peter Obi might, or definitely will not have personal issues with Soludo. After that statement, when they meet, they exchange banters and they clapped hands. So they shook hands. So let Nigerians not be deceived. Anything that will guarantee peace, for me, interrogate the request.
Indeed.
How do we interrogate the request?
Yes.
How do we interrogate it? Quickly, find out, let the elders find out from the same Nnamdi Kanu if this road to peace, if he's truly interested in this road to peace, if he's interested in the road to peace,
yes,
that road to peace. And then the leaders can now beat their chest and say, yes, we.
Governor's request quite dicey because he has said, I will keep him, I will provide him shelter, and anytime you need him, we will bring him to you. I recall that perhaps the reason the federal government had given for not obeying that court order is the fact that Kanu poses a flight risk. How are we sure, for instance, that the governor has the capacity to hold on to Nnamdi Kanu, provide him when he's needed,
also,
given his track record?
Why I'm not holding forth for the governor, but I also think that the governor and some elders have visited Nnamdi Kanu, including Chief Ezefe or so. These are respected elders from the region, and I know they had at one point or the other visited him, had interactions with him. So the governor might not just be saying, bring him here for me to create a prison for him or put him in house arrest. The governor probably know what more than you and I know.
So they must have gotten him in confidence and be sure that they can hold on to him. Just let me hold you for a minute, Mr. Shoma. George has called in from Ikeja. Hello, Mr. George.
Good morning, Mr. and good morning to Mr. Shoma.
Good morning.
Mr. I still maintain my stance that there is no sincerity of purpose in this intervention. Mr. Shoma said something that the issue arose from marginalization, if I understood him well. But
no, that's not what I said.
He's taking up arms, the solution to marginalization, assuming there is actually marginalization. Hand this man over to me and trust me. All the while, they don't say anything. I said it before, the elite don't say anything. Even the Peter Obi that is contesting for presidency now, they've been pressing him to say something about IPOB. He doesn't. What do you see to that? The solution lies with the Eastern elite themselves. It's like shooting themselves on the foot.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it. There is need for sincerity of purpose if this issue is to be resolved. You cannot blame the government. If everybody that is agreed against a government policy goes to the air and starts launching insurrection and then take up arms, how will Nigeria be? There has to be law and order now.
They're already doing that. They're already doing that.
All right.
So there has to be law and order. You can't blame the government.
That's our time, Mr. George. I'll get your reaction very shortly, Mr. Shoma. Let's go on a short break.